Hello YouTube, this is Charles from Evershade Gaming with a 9th Age battle report. I got this game in a week ago, and with all the hustle and bustle of exams and the holidays coming to an end, I'm ready to report on the action. So let's have a look at the lists. I'm playing Dread Elves again at 5,000 points. I'm still preparing for Siege at the Tower, a Ohio-based tournament. It's the third weekend in January, and the tournament's using 1.3, so this list is 1.3. I'm trying out a Knob General on foot. He's the first time I ever used a Knob General. With the 1.3, they got a small decrease in points. My idea of the list is the Executioners are going to run around on their own. The Legionnaires are going to have the Dread Prince, and the Oracle and the Cult Priest on the altar are going to be in the small Legionnaire unit. My opponent is playing Ogre Khans, a different opponent from my last battle report, but still playing Ogre Khans. He has the Tough Khan using Termatology. He's got the Demon Heart, which is going to be rough, as you'll see later on. Lots, very MSU list, a lot of tribesman drops, some scrappling drops. Small unit of Tuskers, Yetis, it's just a lot of drops in this list. It's pretty tough, but a lot of drops, very MSU. This is a picture of my deployment for Vanguard. On the left, I have the Kraken, a Raptor Chariot, and then I have Dark Riders and a Bolt Thrower. This is another picture. I have the 29 Executioners with the Stalker Standard. I couldn't quite get to 30 with this list. And then in that, you can see the Legionnaire Bunker, which has my Altar, my VSP on it, and an Oracle, 4 spells. And then this is the rest of my deployment. I have the big block of spears with my Dread Prince. He's a low-cure Fellheart model with a blue Kraken helm on the left of the unit. And then I have 5 more Dark Riders, another Bolt Thrower, and a Hunting Chariot. And then my opponent's deployment is, he's got a unit of 3 Tribesmen, it looks like a Frost Mammoth, but it is a Rock for him. And then he has 2 Tuskers. He's using Peasant Bowmen as the Scrapplings. And yeah, so this is not his finished deployment yet. He's got a couple more drops. Like, I took 2 pictures too early. And then you'll see later he puts more Tribesmen behind the Scrapplings. Then he's got some more Tribesmen in front of the Bombardiers. He's got his Scrappling Trappers in the forest, his cannon, more Scrapplings. He's using a Scrappling one? It's a Scratapult, my apologies. And then he has 3 more Bombardiers. He has 3 Tribesmen in the building, and the 3 Yetis on his far right flank. That's his Khan, the dude with the Iron Fist, or the bear trap in his hand, and then his wizard is in that unit of Bombardiers on the right of the screen. So, tough guy, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with him. This is my first Vanguard. I brought these Dark Riders up, not too far. I'm just trying to hopefully get beyond the Tribesmen on the left there. And then this is my other Vanguard. He actually Vanguarded his Yetis backwards. And then I pushed up my Vanguard like this. And I was pretty confident I was getting turn 1 because this scenario is Counter Thrust. And since he had MSU Ogres, he had 4 drops more than me, and I let him drop first. Or actually, I dropped first. So I was pretty confident in turn 1, and I do get turn 1. So this is my turn 1 movement. I moved the Kraken up a little bit because I'm not really scared of those Yetis. Moved the Dark Riders onto their flanks, and I slowly move up the middle. I probably should have been more aggressive with the Executioners, as he does have quite a bit of shooting for an army. In the Magic Face, I get 6 dice. I believe my opponent got 4 or 5, or we might even both channel this turn 1. The only thing I cast, though, is I cast the signature spell from Alchemy on his Rock, and I actually do get 2 wounds through, which was really nice. So that thing already has 2 wounds on it. Turn 1. And we move on to the shooting phase. In the shooting phase, when the bolt thrower puts 3 wounds on those bombardiers and kills 1 model, which is great. It's going to help alleviate the pressure on the executioner block. And the hunting chariot hits and wounds, and it actually gets 2 wounds on the rock, which is awesome as well. So turn 1, I was able to put 4 wounds on that bad boy. And all my other repeater crossbow shootings from a chariot, from my Dark Riders, they don't really do anything. I might get 1 wound on that tribesman unit. And this is a picture of me. I forgot to show this. I moved my harpies up here to chaff him, and this is actually his turn. Those tribesmen charge those harpies. That piece of terrain is a field, by the way. My opponent makes this very easy charge, and then on the right side of the field, he moves up his bombardiers to shoot the executioners. He moves the tribesmen out of the rune. I think they might take 1 wound for it, and then he moves his Yetis behind my Dark Raiders, and then he doesn't really need to move up his War Machines. And then he scooches over his Tusker Cab and his Rock. He doesn't move his tribesmen; they're kind of stuck behind there, but he does move up that small unit of tribesmen, and his Scrapplings were actually just in range to shoot my executioners, so they don't move. But his Scrappling trappers do move out of the forest. In his match phase, he gets 10 dice, which is quite scary. Against Thaumaturgy, or however you pronounce it. But my opponent did get the first 3 spells and the last spell. So the old Comet, the D6, D6 hits, D6 strength, and then Trial of Faith, which that was one of the spells he got off this round. He cast it on my BSB on the altar. We both rolled the D6. I believe he got a 5 and I got a 1. Or he did 4 hits, but I made 3 ward saves, which was nice. So the altar and the BSB just took 1 wound. And then we move on to the shooting phase, and he actually unloads quite a bit of shots on the executioners. I believe this was the bombardiers hitting and killing 3 models, 3 executioners. And then this was actually his unit of 15 Scrapplings. They, only 15 shots, but they hit with like 10 of them, and they wounded with 5, and I only made, I don't think I made any saves, actually. Yeah, he just takes 5 out, and I took the unit filler of 6 out. And then this might have been his Scratapult, or it was the other Bombardiers, but they also killed 2. And when the shooting phase is all done, the executioners are down 10 models. I'm getting concerned about that unit. And in combat, the tribesmen easily kill all the harpies, and they overrun, and they actually overrun quite far, as we've seen a couple pictures. This is the start of my turn 2. I charged the Kraken into the tribesmen. They passed their terror test. And I had a nice, juicy flank on that Bombardier unit with the Raptor Chariot. Passed the stupidity test. Needed a 9, but it failed, unfortunately. And then I push up the rest of my middle. I didn't want to charge the Bombardiers with the Executioners because they would just flee. So I just kind of push them as far as I can forward, and then I charge the tribesmen with my Legionnaire block. This is my match phase. I actually get a nice large match phase here. Nice 10 dice phase. My opponent decides that he wants to use his Demon Heart, which is not a bad idea at a large magic phase. I was able to get a transmutation of lead on his Bombardiers, his 4-man unit, for Ogre unit, and that caused miscasts, killed, unfortunately, 7 Legionnaires, which will come to haunt me later on. That was the only spell I got off that phase, though. He was able to stop everything else. In combat, the Legionnaires easily pulverize the tribesmen, and actually not too bad because my general was able to. I believe he did. I think he only did 2 actually. He rolled really poorly, but he still picks up some armor save with the Crimson Nail. And the Kraken also eats a couple ogres, and they flee, and he's sitting right there at the end of combat, which is also good because I think he can take those Yetis any day of the week. He did take 1 wound for his trouble of eating those ogres. And this is the start of my opponent's turn 2. So he gets his Kin Eater on the board. That's after charges. He charges the Yetis into my Kraken, and I'm thinking, okay, no problem. And then he charges the Bombardiers and the Bolt Thrower, but they fail, which is very nice. And then in my opponent's magic phase, he got another large phase. I believe I channeled, and he might have channeled as well, but it ends up being something like a 9 to 7 phase. And this is another shot of the end of movement. A lot of sequence, my apologies. He shafted me up again with his tribesmen, and he puts the Tusker Cav and the Rock into the Dark Riders I put there the previous turn. Shooting kills a couple more executioners. I actually fared this shooting run much better than the previous one. Only another one dies. I think this is between all the bow shots and both the cannon and the Scratapult miss. And actually, because of the transmutation of lead, the other Bombardier unit might have only done 1 or 2 wounds, or might even saved it on a 6-7. In my opponent's combat phase, the Kraken does what it does, and it does maybe 4 or 5 wounds, and chases down the Yetis. They do 3 wounds on him, so I didn't even bother flipping the dice. He's just got 1 wound left. And after combat, this is how the Rock overran because of Frenzy, and then my opponent decided to just do a combat reform with his Tusker Cav to base the middle of the board. And this is the beginning of my turn 3. So the Legionnaires flank charge that small unit tribesmen again, and I believe the Altar charged the Scraplings the previous turn, and it is now moved up to kind of give its aura of lethal strike to the Executioners. They were able to charge the cannon, and they make it into the cannon. The Dark Riders, who turn around the previous turn, charge the Scratapults, and the Chariot has to pit it again, and it charges the Bombardiers, who try and stand and shoot, but they don't get any wounds through because it was long range and stand and shoot penalty. In the magic phase, I get the Quicksilver Lash off again on the Rock, and I do another 2 wounds, which is really great. So that guy is gone, which saves me a lot of worrying. And I don't believe... I think I keep trying to get Corruption of Tin off on the Tuskers, but he keeps stopping it. In the shooting phase, the Hunting Chariot was going to try and pick on the Rock, but it shoots the Tusker Cav instead, and it does 2 wounds. 3 would have been nice, but it's okay. And then no more shooting really happens. I think the Bolt Thrower tries to pick on the Tuskers, but they can't do anything. After close combat with the Tribesmen, the Dread Legionnaires reform to kind of add some ranks. I don't think they really just... They got shot, actually, by the Scratapult turn 2, I think. Yes, yeah. The Scratapult picked on them turn 2 and killed quite a lot of the unit. After combat, the Chariot is right there. It did what, Chariot's doing the charge, and it took care of the Bombardiers as well. And the placement's not even that bad, because I don't even think I would be worried if Scraplings charged the Chariot. I still got 6 strength, 4 attacks, so. Then we go into combats in the middle. So the Executioners with Hatred and with re-rolling wounds with lethal strike. I think they did 7 wounds to the chariot, actually. So they kill it, and then they overrun into the bombardiers with his wizard in it. Surprised how many executioners I got into combat. It's awesome. And then the Dark Riders, they did well. I think they did 2 wounds. He did 3 wounds back. And then I had a flank and a charge, but I think he needed a 5, and he didn't have a reroll, and he made it, which is unfortunate, but okay. So that's 6. There's the Scrabblings that did all the work too, which is the funny part. And then this is the beginning of his turn. Turn 3 for him. He charges the Kin Eater into the Bolt Thrower, which is, the Bolt Thrower had it coming. I believe the Bolt Thrower might have just picked on some of the middle units. It really couldn't kill this guy in 1 round anyway, so. And then over here, he charges with the Scrapplings into the flank of the Executioners. He just charges his general out of that Tribesman unit into the Executioners. And then he puts his Tuskar Cav into the Altar and the Legionary unit. And it was a bit of a long charge. I think he needed 9 or 10 on the roll. And it doesn't work out well for me. This is after combat. The Executioners did pretty well. They killed 3 of the Tribesmen. They may have put a wound on the Wizard as well. I think he took 1 wound. They don't do anything to the General, and they kill 1 Scrappling. The Executioners actually they lost by 2, pretty much because of the Scrappling combat res. But they held. They had leadership 10 because the General's nearby, and they held, which was great. Over here, this is showing the Tuskar Cav after he has pursued down the Altar. This was something new I was trying with the Altar and a Legionary unit, and my Oracle as well. So I don't like how, when you miscast, you can do some serious damage to your units. So I decided I would try out this small unit of Legionnaires and my Oracle together, and it was going really well until he forced a miscast on me. Especially with Alchemy, I feel like I only need 3 dice most of the time to cast a spell. So in addition to the unit being reduced in numbers because of that miscast, being reduced about half strength, I rolled really poorly with everything. Just my Oracle can't hit anything, even with Hatred, and she can't wound anything. So she only does 1 wound. The Avatar from the Altar can't do anything either, even with Strength 5 and Weapon Skill 5. The Legionnaires don't poke through a wound, so we needed Snake Eyes, and actually needed, a 2 on the dice. We did not get it and run down. So I apologize here, I'm missing a picture, but at the beginning of my turn 4, I charged my Legionnaires into the back of the 15 Scrapplers in the flank of my Executioners. And I was also able to charge the Raptor Chariot into the Bombardiers with his Wizard. So I got 2 charges on that unit, that big combat in the middle, and at the end of it, there's no more Executioners. The Wizard has taken 2 or 3 more wounds, or he's down to 1 wound, and the Raptor Chariot pursues and catches his general, and the Legionnaires reform, and that 1 Scrappling gets away. There's 1 Scrappling. The Legionnaires just kill like 14 or 13 Scrapplings. So this is the start of my turn 5, actually. Not much happened in his turn 4. I think he just moves his Kin Eater up. He does rally his Wizard, which is unfortunate. And then my Raptor Chariot, when he pursued the General, he overran into these Tribesmen as well. The Raptor Chariot did well in combat, but it did not break their steadfast, and he passes that leadership test, even without the Hellfisting army anymore, which is incredible. And then on my turn, this is showing I move up charge my Legionnaires into his Tribesmen to help finish them off. I killed that Tuskar Cav. It just kind of went straight for the Bolt Thrower, and between the bolt thrower and the hunting chariot, we kill that last Tusker, which feels good. A little too late, however. And then pretty much the rest of the game, I'm just trying to get the points from his wizard. So the Raptor Chariot and the Legionnaires on my turn 5 took care of the rest of the tribesmen. I reformed with my Legionnaires wide to try and get a large view. I was hoping to have his wizard fail a march block test because I was within 8 and I had the musician, but he passes that on leadership 7 and he's able to get out of my arc. So, and then I believe I have no magic, so this is his turn. Or actually my turn 6. I do end up killing his wizard. I believe it's the bolt thrower that gets the job done. I think the hunting chariot even hits on wounds, but he passes a 5 upward save. The bolt thrower just kind of puts 2 wounds on him. The multi-shot and kills him. So this is the end of the game. My Kraken was killed in his turn 5 magic phase, and he hit the last turn, but he didn't really have anything to do. He might do some shots on the Raptor Chariot to try and do some more wounds, but that's about it. The end of the game, it's a small win for the Dread Elves. I say after objectives in the slide because the objective was capture the banners, and I only had 3 scoring units, and I only had 1 alive to the game. He had, I believe, 8 scoring units. Every single one of the tribesmen, the 2 bombardiers, the 2 scraplings. 8. So he had quite a bit of scoring units, and it would have been my choice to choose, and we forgot to choose at the beginning of the game. So it felt a little bit unfair to say, well, he only had the 1 scrappling unit alive as a counting scoring unit. The 1 scrappling flees off the board, or it might even not flee off the board. But that 1 scrappling was still fleeing, so not counting as a scoring unit in that case. So if we did get objectives, which in a tournament I might kind of press my opponent for it a little bit more, but because that would be a 16-4 is not too bad in a tournament. My end of thoughts are, I thought my opponent had a really solid MSU list. There was a lot of blocks, a lot of tribesmen. I liked that they all had Iron Fists, because that was actually not too much of a problem with Nob, but if I didn't have Nob, it would have been a bit more of a problem. The Contra Thrust deployment hurt my opponent a little bit. I think MSU, it's a little bit easier when your opponent drops everything at the same time. It's nice trading off deployments, but if you have an MSU list, you're almost always going last, which is not fun either. I was pretty happy with this list. I feel like the altar is just really strong with the executioners. I think there is an internal balance problem with them and the Tower Guard at this moment, because I was able to go into that cannon on the cannon chariot and just kill it in 1 round with only like 9 attacks. That's really good. Because worst case scenario, if the executioners didn't kill that cannon chariot, it would have done a couple wounds back. Between the Rhinox and the Rider. They would have, maybe done at least 2 or 3 wounds, and then he's got his general right nearby, and he's got a reroll. If he's only down by even though he's down by 3 or 4, there's a decent chance for it to still stick. And then his next turn, he gets impact hits with his threatening ogres. So the ability for executioners to now just in a single charge, even with a small amount of models, small amount of attacks, go in and do 6 to 7 wounds to like a high toughness monster or something like that. It's really strong. It's something no other Dread Elf can do. So they're kind of the #1 pick right now. But thank you for watching, and have a great day. This has been Evershade Gaming.